Oh wait, do I hang?
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Privacy Chats with Rachel and John, a podcast for privacy professionals and enthusiasts alike. I'm Rachel.
And I'm John, and we are your hosts. So Rachel, so we're recording this right around the holidays in December, but for our listeners, we're not going to post it for a couple of weeks, so it'll be into January before anyone hears this. But in your holiday shopping so far, have you purchased any gift cards to give away?
Oh, you know it. More so for my younger nieces and nephews, because I don't really know always what's cool and young and hip with the teens anymore. I feel like gift cards are generally, telling people I don't know what to get you, but I knew you'd know what to get you.
Yeah, fair. I kind of take the same approach to it, I guess, for for some people. I guess it depends on who the audience is. And I've definitely used gift cards in the past. I don't think I do it that much anymore. I know at some point my wife suggested an Amazon gift card for a particular person. I agreed to that. But I don't think I've bought many of them this year so far. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me guess. This episode is about something related to gift cards.
It is. So sorry if this is too late to help people out for the holidays for the shopping that you well, I guess is already finished by the time people are listening. But the problems that we're going to talk about here, they're not going away anytime soon. So the advice in this episode should be timeless. So keep it in mind for the future.
For scams related to gift cards. But what is the impetus for this discussion and how do we tie it all the way back to privacy?
So the connection to privacy might be a little bit weak. The topic is definitely more on the cybersecurity side of things, but I think it's definitely within the realm of things that we generally cover in our podcast. And as far as the impetus, like what made me think to do this episode, it was just like the holiday time of the year was coming. There was some typical warnings that came up on the I don't know the news or something, and I just decided that I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. Like, what are these scams about? And just to be clear, because there's a couple of different scams that involve gift cards. What we're talking about is scams in which you buy gift cards, but the value has been drained, is the term that's used. So when the recipient actually gets it, there's nothing on there. So you put some money on it, but by the time the recipient gets it, there's nothing there. But this is different from scams in which people are tricked into buying gift cards and then sending the numbers to scammers. So that's kind of on the other end of things.
Yeah, that's interesting and a good thing to clarify. So what do you have for us?
So when I started getting into the research, the first interesting thing that I found that I came across that was something new to me was the terms they call them open loop and closed loop gift cards,
Hmm.
which I hadn't heard of before.
I hadn't either. What does it mean?
So closed loop gift cards are ones that are sold by a specific vendor, and the card can only be used for purchases from that vendor, purchasing products or services or something from that particular vendor. So, for example, Dunkin' Donuts sells gift cards. I noticed a couple of those in my house this afternoon. That so you can buy it at a grocery store at Dunkin' Donuts or somewhere. But whatever the name of the company that's on the card is the only place that you can buy things from using that card. So I can't take a Dunkin' Donuts gift card and go into, I don't know, CVS and buy chewing gum or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, if only. So if that's closed loop, then I assume the open loop are cards that are issued by like a Visa or a MasterCard and it can be spent anywhere, Dunkin' Donuts or not.
Yeah, I mean that's my understanding. That's the essence of the difference. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it was
Okay.
interesting that they have different terms for them.
Yeah. What else?
Okay, so I was looking for information about the intricacies of the industry, and I noticed that a lot of the information out there is very vague on details, how the cards work, and it was frustrating because I really kind of want to understand the nuts and bolts of how this is all happening, and not just say, "Hey, there's a scam out there." I'd like to talk about the details of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I kind of wonder how much of this information is intentionally perhaps limited by credit card producers, vendors, whatever you call them. And I suspect that a lot of people in our audience would also want this more deeper perspective, considering how common gift card giving is. I mean, who hasn't purchased or received one, right?
Yeah, for sure. I want to start out by looking at the getting into the mechanics of it, like how money is put in onto the gift card. So if we have a deeper understanding of this, how the money goes on and out, in and out, I guess, maybe we can be better equipped to avoid being scammed by it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, putting money onto the gift cards, don't you just hand either your credit card or cash to a cashier and they turn it on?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It certainly seems that way. And I think you have to pay attention to the card itself, and I guess the breakdown or the anatomy of the card and what the different pieces are.
Mhm.
Um, even the packaging comes into play here. So many cards, as I started thinking about this, I recall that many cards came in sealed envelopes with little windows on them that reveal a barcode that this cashier can scan to activate the card.
Mhm.
Um, and that barcode is often covered up with like a tamper-proof tab or something that the cashier needs to peel off, and we'll talk a little bit more about those later in this episode. But yeah, so there's activation codes there.
Yeah. I one of my favorite memories as a kid, along with getting the gift cards, was the scratching of the little
Yeah.
code at the back off with with the coin. I swear that was just as exciting as getting a gift card. But anyway, presumably that code isn't something that can actually be used to spend money on the card, right?
So not the activation code. So the cards generally have two different numbers on them, or there's really three because it's the PIN number that we're going to talk about also. So one that you can see through that window that we talked about is for activating it, and the other number is the one that's for spending. So the spending one is really just like the number that you have on your credit card. So when the cashier scans the activation code, it tells the card issuer to place, that amount of value onto the card, but it's the other number that the value is being linked to.
Mhm.
And in some cases, like those ones that things are covered up, that other number, if it's using an envelope, is not visible to you at that point or the cashier. You can only
Yeah.
see the activation barcode. But all of that transfer of money and the activation and tying one thing to another, that all happens in the back end of things. The actual card doesn't hold the value. It's just a piece of plastic with numbers on it, and the number is a representation of value, kind of like a credit card is just a number, and the holder of the card is able to use it to buy things, but the actual money is somewhere else.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when I give the card to someone, they're able to use it because they would reveal the other number that remains hidden until they open it, right? That sounds pretty secure so far. Um, how do people get scammed by this then?
So as I started thinking about that and going back to the anatomy of the card, I wanted to do some more research. So I decided to pretend that you and I, for our podcast, have some sponsors or income or something, expense
Pretend.
accounts. Pretend because we don't. And anyway, I went out and I bought some gift cards that I could use to reference the security features and kind of, look through it. And I will admit that I don't actually have them here because I'm not in my home office, but
Rats.
I have good. But I was gonna say like here's the visuals, but this is an audio podcast for most listeners, so I'll
Yeah.
be describing it from memory. But anyway, so
Either
I have
way,
gift
I
cards.
guess listeners trust this is a real, empirical research process. But go on.
Yes. So I'll start with the most basic because I bought several different types of cards. I'll start with the most basic and move on to the most secure of the ones that, in my opinion. So,
Cool. Um, what is the first one here then? Is it like a closed loop example or what kind of gift card?
so most of them are all the closed loop. They're just for a particular vendor.
Mhm.
Um, so the first one I want to talk about is closed loop that I bought. I bought them all or most of them at Giant Food. It's my local grocery store. I bought this card at Giant. So the first one I'm talking about is a Giant gift card. So it's a closed loop card that is intended for purchases at Giant Food. I also happen to purchase it at Giant Food. But when I got it, the gift card itself was attached to a larger piece of plastic. So it was like the credit card size thing, but it was bigger. But there was like a perforated edge that you could kind of break it off. The larger piece of plastic really just seemed to be for display purposes, it was just to give it something that they could hang from to make it larger for, I guess, for marketing purposes. But on
Mhm.
the back of the card, there was a magnetic strip and a barcode and a pin that was covered up with the little scratch off thing that you said that you were all excited to use when you got them.
Yeah.
So when I purchased this card, the cashier scanned the barcode, the activation barcode. She asked me how much I wanted to put on it. I chose this minimum of $5 because we actually don't have expense accounts here. Um, and then I got a receipt for it, and it said it was a gift activation receipt, and it showed that the card had an available balance of $5 on it so far. So all of that seemed to go the way you might expect to activate a card. I handed it to her. She said, "What do you want to do?" So I got that. But
Mhm.
when I got it home, I looked closer at this card and the little scratch off thing that you kind of take a coin and destroy it as you're scratching it off. Instead of scratching it off, I tried to peel it off, like gently. And
Mhm.
I really was able to peel it off in such a way that without a lot of difficulty, I would have been able to put it back on. So I
Yeah.
revealed the pin. I could have written down the pin, put that barcode, that scratch off thing back on, and made it look as if I had never done that. So
Yeah.
that's a bit of
Well,
learning.
first of all, way less fun than scratching it off, so negative points there. It's like, I
Sorry.
mean,
Okay.
secondly, I mean, a little surprising. I wonder if it's like, I don't know, too expensive to make good scratchy ones. But I mean, how would that benefit you as someone that took off the little sticky part that should have been scratched off?
So if I had the value, so I looked at the Giant Food website, so where this is a place where presumably I could spend the value.
Mhm.
And I learned that, these gift cards can be used for online purchases. So if I were so inclined, I could take some of these gift cards from the store without actually adding value to them, bring them home, carefully reveal the PIN numbers on them the way I described, like peel off the little scratchy thing, cover them back up, write down the PIN numbers and remember them, and then return all of these cards to the store. So now I know what the PIN numbers are and the number to the card. I would just have to wait for other people to go to the store for them to buy them, add value to them, and then I would be able to use those numbers with the PIN to buy things online from Giant and then pick those things up at the store anonymously.
Ooh, I think we just taught everyone how to scam credit cards and ripping people off. I guess for a very limited amount of credit cards. Or credit cards, gift cards, I hope.
Yeah,
Starting
I
with the least
agreed.
secure.
Yeah, yeah, and my wife said the same thing. Are you actually going online and teaching people how to do this? But that's not our intent. And honestly, I think that this is the type of this type of thief is really not in our target audience.
Yeah,
So
of course. Our listeners are honest people. So on
yeah.
this giant gift card, are there limits to what you can purchase? What is the extent of the gain basically that someone could derive from this new funded little account?
Yeah, it's a good point. How far can you go with it? So the FAQ on the Giant gift card, I guess the website for gift cards, says that you may purchase the any merchandise that you like. However, you may use the card to purchase you may not use the card to purchase services, including money orders, money transfers, pay utility bills, or pay for return checks or lottery or other gifts. So
Mhm.
they have limits. Like basically, you can't buy uh, I don't know, like things of monetary value. Like you can buy it's a
Can't
grocery
buy
store. You can
money
buy
with more
groceries.
more money. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then it also clarifies that Giant Food gift cards may be redeemed for merchandise only and may not be redeemed for cash unless required by law.
Maybe that's more related to the other types of credit card scams, like a little policy or restriction to prevent those type. But what's your conclusion on
Yeah.
the card from the perspective of how secure it is for people buying new ones?
Yeah, so honestly, I think that there's effective to no security on this card at all. If I were not an honest person, it would be super easy for me to steal from people and get free groceries. So my recommendation for those is don't buy them. You're effectively hoping to not get scammed. I'm really disappointed that Giant or whoever else sells them. I shouldn't be picking on Giant. They just picked their card because it was the first one in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that they would sell such an insecure thing and leave them out in the open for anyone to manipulate because these cards aren't behind the counter. They're right there in the front of the store. So
Yeah.
0 stars for me.
Scammers grab and go. Okay. What's
Yeah.
next?
Okay, so the next one I got, I'll breeze through this one quickly. So the card looked a little bit different. It was from Dairy Queen, so where you can buy ice cream. I don't know if they have that in your part of the country.
Yeah.
Um, but it looked similar, but a little bit different. The structure was the same. It had the credit card with a larger piece of plastic. The one that I noticed was different was that on this one, the barcode for activating the actual credit card wasn't on the actual credit card. It was on the other piece of plastic. But since they were both attached to each other, and both of the numbers, the activation code and the other number, were clearly visible, I don't know that it was helpful that they were separated on different pieces of the plastic, right? Um,
Yeah.
and this one, it also had a PIN number on the actual back of the credit card. It was also covered by one of those scratch off thingies. But this one was actually even easier to peel off than the one from my first example. And I was able to peel it off in a way that I'd be able to easily glue it back on. So nobody would be able to tell that I had done that. So this one, I checked their online portal, and it seemed that I could order online things using the gift card. But using the gift card, I couldn't tell what their online portal for purchasing things was down.
Mm.
But the whole thing seemed very similar to the last card we discussed. Um, Interestingly, for this one, it actually said it on the back of the card. May not be redeemed for cash, check, or credit, except in New Jersey or as required by law. So
Hmm.
it seems that there might be a way that you can steal Dairy Queen gift cards and turn them back into cash in New Jersey.
But go figure. I mean, talk about money laundering at its finest. So
Yeah.
what, two thumbs down for this one? Is this one worse than the other one by, proxy of money laundering being a possibility in certain states?
I guess I'm going to put it in the exact same category. So it's
Yeah.
certainly two thumbs down. Let's go with two thumbs down for the last one too. 0 stars. Um, the you know, apart from the possibility of turning these into cash in New Jersey and maybe some other places, the reality is the limits that you would have are buying products that you can get at Dairy Queen. So there's not really things that have a huge value. They're not things that are resellable.
Hmm.
So this would effectively amount to petty theft. So there's some risk of getting caught, I guess, with very low reward.
Yeah, understood. Who would want to risk going to jail for some free ice cream? I hope not many people.
Yeah, not me at all. But how about coffee though?
Now we're talking. Frequent
Okay,
Starbucks goer here.
so continuing on with the research, so I left the giant food where I was buying the gift cards. I went across the street to the local Starbucks. I did buy a grande caramel latte, and
Yum.
yeah, love them, and a $10 gift card. So the gift card looked initially a little bit different. The card itself was made of like a cardboard instead of plastic. The activation code was a data matrix instead of barcode, so it was, it looked more fancy. Um,
Mm.
but the actual card number was clearly visible, just like the two previous cards that we talked about. This one also had a PIN number that was also covered by the scratch off thing, but this one I was also able to peel it off and with relative ease in such a way
No,
that I could put it back on. So
no. It looks different. It's funny, the data matrix is interesting because I've been a receiver of like I think more the digital gift card version, or maybe just
sure.
the it was older than when they had this data matrix thing, but it sounds like it's effectively the same level of security as the other so far.
Yeah, effectively it was the same. There's some slightly different technology, but the security features were the same.
How about any other? Were there any gift cards that were secure by any means?
They did get it a little bit better. So the next one was from Lowe's, which it's a big hardware store in my part of the country, is the one closest to my home. I bought it at the grocery store also, but this card was a little bit different because the card itself was contained in a sealed envelope that had kind of like I talked about at the beginning of the episode, that has a window to reveal the activation barcode, but not the rest of the card. So it's different.
Sounds better so far.
Yeah, it is, I think. But this one, the idea seemed good, but the structure of this one was bad. I think that the window that revealed the activation code was too big. So I was able to look through this window and see enough of the other number that I'm not supposed to see, that I was able to decipher what it is just by, without opening this envelope at all. And then the scratch off thing was there covering the PIN number. Also, I could kind of see where it was through the window. Like obviously I couldn't see what it said. But I think if I was to have put some effort into it and with the right kind of knife or something, like, something that an artist might use, I think I
Hmm.
might have been able to get up through the window to that little scratch off thing and get it off and get the pin number off of it. So
Yeah. Still possible, but at least a little greater effort, right?
yeah, so it's certainly better than the others. I've also heard of other tricks that thieves are using. The first one is they carefully open these envelopes either by melting the glue or using a very sharp knife along the edge. And then once they have access, they can reveal the card. And in some cases, I even heard this year in some of the warnings that they cut the top half of the card away. So the part of the card that has the actual number that you use for spending things, and maybe the magnetic strip,
Oh, yeah.
they cut that part of the card away, leaving only the activation window or that part of the card showing through the window. And then they wait for somebody to buy the card, activate it, add value to it, and then they use the part of the card or the numbers that they stole to go ahead and make purchases before somebody else tries to.
Huh. So it's like a disadvantage of that envelope or that window, right?
It's just poor design.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean,
And at the
better than
hardware
the
store,
earlier.
yeah, no, at the hardware store, I mean, they're generally more expensive, just thinking about this from a risk perspective.
Yeah.
Way higher than something like a couple Dairy Queens. I think the value probably is higher on average there at a Lowe's.
Yeah, I mean the items that you can purchase, and these things can be resold. Like I'm not going to buy an ice cream cone and try and sell it to somebody else on, I don't know, social media or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you can buy something and then resell it to somebody else, you've effectively laundered that back into cash. So
Yeah. Yeah. What else is going on here? This sounds like there's more tricks than up your sleeves that you've discovered here. You're like an
so
expert at credit cards now.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
gift cards. I keep saying credit cards.
Gift. I know. No, it's okay. So another one that I heard about was so let's say I go to the grocery store and I take two of these off of the shelf without activating them or putting any value on them, and then I take them home. So I've got two of them. I take them home, make a photocopy of the activation code for one of them, and then slip that photocopy into the window of the other card. So this now is going to look exactly like it should, an open window revealing a barcode to activate the card. And then if I take that one and slip it back onto the display in the store and wait for someone else to buy that one, when they activate their card, it really has the activation barcode for the card that I still have. So they'll be putting value onto my card instead of their own. And then I can just keep an eye on my online portal for the card that I have and spend the money as soon as they have added it to my cart.
Whew, it's getting more complex as we keep talking. How do you even defend against something like that?
So for that one, I think you just need to pay attention. You need to inspect the packaging, try to look for any anomalies that suggest that it's been tampered with. I mean, maybe feel the card through the window and make sure that it's not printed. Like it should feel like plastic. It should feel like a credit card. Not feel it shouldn't feel like a piece of paper that's been printed out of your dot matrix printer at home.
Yeah.
Um, one article or reference that I found suggested asking the store clerk. So when you activate it, ask the clerk to open it up when they activate it to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. But I'm not sure I really like that because now you're stuck with giving somebody a gift of something that's already been opened. Like it
Yeah,
kind of
now
looks
they think it
sketchy.
looks weird for sure. And, I mean, I like the idea of someone, else in the store's end kind of being there to help make that decision before you leave, but it is a weird gift
Right.
giving look.
Yeah.
So we need to keep a close eye on the packaging that things come in, not unlike Halloween for those that have kids or go trick-or-treating. What else?
Well, I think that the fact that there's packaging for this particular card is a big improvement over the first few. So, this one was better for sure.
It is. I mean, I'm wondering how many gift cards you bought in total too. How many?
Well,
Did you
let's keep going.
spend
I
our
have a
whole
few more.
budget for the podcast?
I know we have no budget, so anyway, I'm gonna spend these later on. So okay, so the next one I got was from Amazon, and I was actually very impressed with this one because the gift card was also in an envelope, but it was completely contained. The card was completely contained. There wasn't a window that you could see any part of it. So instead of having a window, there was where the activation card would be displayed. There was a little pull tab that you had to pull it and rip open a small window that so the activation barcode itself only gets revealed to the person who's purchasing it at the time they're purchasing it. So I was standing at the register and I didn't even rip it off. It was the cashier that did.
Mhm.
Um, so so this obviously is not going to be revealed until you're standing at with the cashier. So this is going to make it much more difficult for anyone to tamper with the card that's inside the envelope or to capture any of the numbers that are in the card by trying to peer up through the window or something. This envelope completely covered the area that had a PIN number, um, uh, and so much so like the little scratch offy thing. I don't know that that would have even been necessary because the card was completely contained. So
Yeah. Yeah.
better.
Simple design tweaks, right? It sounds like you prefer this one.
Yeah, it was definitely the most secure of the ones that I looked at. I think it would take a great deal of effort to gain access to the card inside of this envelope without causing damage to it. So if I was buying gift cards like outside of this research, I would want to have this type of container. So,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to fully endorse this as being safe. There's still some risk.
Right. As many things, right? Risk can't be eliminated, just mitigated.
That's right. There's your risk management hat showing through.
Gold
So
star. You said
that's
you have
right.
a
Yeah.
few more. What else?
So the next one that I wanted to talk about is from the open loop category. It was a vanilla Visa gift card, and it said on the back it was issued by the Sutton Bank, wherever that is, pursuant to a license from Visa USA. So this one, kind of like or the Amazon one that I talked about, it came in a sealed envelope that contained the card quite well. I think again it would have been extremely difficult to gain access to the card without damaging the envelope and revealing that the envelope had been tampered with. Um, I also noted that unlike the Amazon gift card, this one didn't have a little tear off thing to reveal the activation barcode. Um, but the one of the features that was different is that the activation number from the card was also printed on the envelope. And there was a little note to purchasers telling them to compare the number that was on the envelope to the activation code that you could see through the window on the card itself to make sure that they were the same. So
Huh.
this would definitely be a valid check to overcome the one that I talked about with people slipping in, printed
Fake
copy
one,
of a
fake
different
numbers,
activation
yeah.
code. Right. So it would overcome that. But I doubt that many people would read those instructions and
If it's in
do
small
that.
enough print, I probably wouldn't have either.
Yeah, and I didn't notice it either when I was in the store. Like I was purchasing these to do research, so I was reading
Mhm.
every part of them. So I didn't notice it until I brought it home and read it more closely. Um, there was another security feature. I think it's a security feature that could be helpful, and it says on the card that funds may not be available for 24 hours after purchase. And I think that that's helpful because if somebody is trying to pull a scam, they're probably going to try and get the money off of there quickly. So if
Yeah.
there's a delay for the money getting onto the card, it might kind of interfere with their plans or whatever. But for this particular card, it's said that the funds might not be there for 24 hours, but I checked the balance on the card around 6 hours after I purchased it, and it already showed the $25 that I put on it was
Hmm.
already there. So
Oh, but a deterrent at the least, I guess. But
there
six
is the
hours.
other. Right. Well, but I don't know. It might have happened sooner than that. Like I didn't check
Yeah,
it for 6 hours. Maybe
that's
if I
true.
checked it after three. But the other thing that I noticed is this card was glued into the envelope. And I think this is significant because even if somebody were to, like with a sharp knife, cut the side of the envelope to try and slide the card out, because of that glue, I don't think you'd be able to easily slide the card out without really destroying the whole envelope.
Yeah, glued to the rescue. That was one of the closed
Yeah.
looped one, the benefits from one of the earlier ones, right? Or the few that there were.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just a piece of glue was helpful. So
Nice. I know you have One more in store.
Well, so the one more that I'm really just going to be neutral about this one. So it was a Google Play card, and I just don't know enough about how Google Play operates itself because I think that matters to offer a good evaluation. I
Hmm.
certainly wasn't impressed with the security features of the card. It was like all of the information was out there to be seen, but I suspect that there's account controls that they have on the Google payment systems in the back end. Um, that might make up for what looks like poor physical security on the card itself.
Hmm.
So I did get my hands on a Google Play card, but I'm gonna kind of withhold a real opinion on it because I don't understand how that operates as a market. So
Yeah, I guess if we have any Google Play users who may or may not have received a gift card, this is an invitation to come and
yeah.
educate us. But and I mean, until then and in between, thanks for doing all this research on actual gift cards. Like this isn't just us reading on sites of terms. This is you in action. Um, are these gonna like show up in stockings next year amongst your family if you don't spend them for the podcast?
I maybe we'll see. I wonder. Yeah, I have to wonder if they would even notice that these the envelopes have been ripped and the little scratchy things peeled off. Like, would they notice that the security features have been interfered with?
Yeah, maybe after hit full circle if they listened to this before then, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Um,
I'm not going to try and predict if my family listens to my podcast or not. But
it would be a good litmus test.
right.
But now that we know a little more about how these gift cards work, I'm curious if there's any regulation around this particular transaction.
Yeah, well, like we talked earlier, so clearly there's some state laws because we've already identified that there's some law evidently in New Jersey that has implications
Right.
for converting gift cards into cash. Also found a reference in some of my research to a thing called the Credit Card Accountability, Responsibility, and Disclosure Act, which requires that gift cards cannot expire for at least 5 years from the date of activation.
Huh. So when I find all the old gift cards in my junk drawer, I don't have any right now, but I have in the past, hypothetically. They might still be good.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't throw them away without checking. So that same act also limits fees that can be charged and requires that a dormancy or inactivity fee can only be charged if there's been no activity for a year. So you can leave these things for a long time without using them. And then they can only charge one fee per month. So there are
Okay.
limits on some of the fees for these.
Good. It sounds a little silly to be, penalized for having money for too long because usually it works the other way around.
Yeah.
Are there any other laws you want to point out?
So I did. So I came across one in my home state of Maryland, is in the process of passing legislation. That law is being called the Gift Card Scams Prevention Act of 2024.
Aptly
Um,
named.
yeah, it is. Yeah. It has some interesting provisions. They're more about where the scams where people are tricked into buying gift cards and not so much
Hmm.
this, draining of gift cards.
Yeah, that is a different type of scam we mentioned a couple times. And for the scams on gift cards being drained, so the one we're talking about now,
Yeah.
how big of a problem is it, like in relative terms? What's the likelihood that if I buy a gift card, I would be a gift victim of these types of scams?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So I did find an article, it was just from last month, so it's fairly recent, from Market Watch that reported that Americans spent $300 billion per year on gift cards. I think I found some other article that said it said 200 billion just during the holiday season. So it sounds like we're doing about $300 billion per year, two-thirds of that during the holiday season, which does kind of make sense. Um,
Yeah.
Another article was from bankrate.com, and it reported that 2 in 5 Americans have gift cards that they haven't used. So people have given
No.
them to us, and we just let them sit there.
Oh,
So
do quick math, but that's big numbers on unused credit cards, hypothetically.
right. So there was another one. There was a consumer report in May 2024, so just a few months ago, and this was from the National Conference of State Legislatures. They reported that in 2023, card draining. So that's just one part of it. Card draining and other gift-related fraud made up 217 million dollars, of the record $10 billion in money lost from scams nationwide.
Mm.
So overall scams, 10 billion, but gift card scams, 217 million.
So, I mean, math numbers wise still sounds very big, but perhaps relative doesn't sound like as big of a deal.
Yeah, I think so. If you compare the value of the reported losses, so that's the $217 million that we're talking about, to the total spend of 300 billion, then it actually comes out to a very small percentage of this. So really, if you look at the, 2 in 5 Americans have gift cards that they haven't used, the reality is that you're more likely to suffer a loss because you just failed to
You didn't
spend the
spend
money
it.
on the card that was given to you, than to suffer a loss because it was drained before you got to it.
Interesting. And I love the integration of more risk management techniques here.
Yeah.
Maybe what can we do if we're not spending these things? What can we do to prevent these scams coming, our way?
So I think awareness is the biggest part of it. People who have listened to this podcast are probably less likely to fall victim because they're going to remember what, Rachel and John talked about and look for the scratchy thing being
Yeah.
tampered with. So maybe they should send the links to this to their friends so that they can be protected
Maybe,
too.
maybe we would accidentally or not go viral one day because of
Maybe this
it.
this could be our moment. But I think the key part of it is awareness. If you look at the cards that you're purchasing, if there's anything that suggests that it might have been tampered with, listen to your spidey sense and don't buy it. I would also lean towards buying cards that have some of the better security features that we talked about. So if it's just a piece of plastic that's hanging there with the numbers all out for everyone to see, maybe that's not the right one to use. Look at one that's contained in an envelope and it seems to be more secure.
Yeah, yeah, but we're still hoping that they've not been interfered with in the stores, and maybe shout out Amazon for helping prevent that more closely than
Yeah,
others.
right, you are, and I think that that would help. Stores shouldn't keep these out in the front of the store where anyone can get to them. But I think that that's not going to change. They make so much money from abandoned gift cards
Yeah,
that there's no incentive for them to change.
very
Um,
true.
the other option is to simply choose a different form of gift giving. Don't use.
Perhaps an annual membership to the Jelly of the Month Club.
I like it. Yes, there's nothing wrong with the old-timey regular gifts. So,
What if,
or
yeah, what if I don't have anything to give?
Well, you could do online gift certificates.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that maybe the lesser evil of the gift card, where you're giving someone value to a place, right?
Right. And people don't like that idea so much because it doesn't they want to have something physical that you can hand to a
Yeah, it's less
person. So when you
traditional.
buy it is. But there's ways of getting around that. You can print something out. You can do an online thing and print something out and put it into the card that you're giving to the person. Or you can be creative. So I did do a gift card for my son. So he and his fiance are going to be doing some traveling this year, related to their getting married and, life changes and stuff like that.
Yes.
So one of their Christmas gifts is a gift certificate to Airbnb,
Oh, cool.
which I bought online. But to give them something that they had a gift to actually open up, I bought an old-timey road atlas, like, the one that's on paper and not
The
on your phone,
physical paper one.
physical
Amazing.
paper one. And then just inside of the front cover of that, I just wrote in it, check your email for an Airbnb gift card. So through this, they had a physical gift to open as they're sitting there in my living room. I got them a gift card for something that they want and will help them in their travels. And I avoided the risks that we talked about here because I didn't walk into a grocery store and buy something that somebody might have tampered with.
Yeah, I love it. That's so creative and includes a great risk mitigation strategy. I'll have to do that more as gift cards continue to be a popular gift giving mechanism. Um, at the start, though, you mentioned incidents where people are tricked into buying gift cards, and throughout this episode, um, I think we ran out of time for this chat. But do you mind if we come back to that in a future chat?
Yeah, I'd actually love to do a part B of that. There's a lot of, I know some about that, like what the scams. I have some good stories to share. Um, And actually, I was chatting with somebody that we work with, Chloe, so we'll reference her in a future episode. So she had a story to share also. So yeah, for sure. I have more research to do, but I will get on that and let's do something in the coming weeks for a part
Yeah,
B for the gift card scams.
looking forward to it. And thanks for doing the legwork with the research on this one and buying all those gift cards. Before we take
Yep.
off, I will let everyone know that the information shared throughout this episode is that of our own and not in any way affiliated with our employers or other organizations. These episodes are produced on our own time and are based on our own research and professional opinions. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Thanks, Rachel, and thanks everyone for listening. See you next time.
See you next time.